Hey guys, it's Stephanie here with TheFlowerFanatic. I have some really exciting stuff here, as you can see. Okay, this stuff is boring, but for reals, it's super exciting because my tulips are starting to pop up and I have deer everywhere and they love my tulips, so I have to spray for them. I'm going to show you the perfect method you can use to spray your deer. There are some few other methods that I'll tell you about, but for something that's instant, you can use, I'll show you what it is. So I have 1 gallon of water here, 6 eggs. The more rotten smell, the better. My mom taught me this when I was young. So she loved her roses, she loved tulips, and she lived in a mountain too, where I do. And the deer just come down there when they get hungry and there's not enough vegetation in the mountain. They'll pretty much eat anything if they're hungry enough. But they happen to love tulips because they taste like candy. So if I was a deer, I'd want to eat a tulip too. Anyways, the first thing you want to do is get 6 eggs. And you're just going to pour them in this water. So these are pretty fresh eggs. It will work. But I'm not worried about them sitting in my sprayer for too long. I kind of want them to get stinky. So I'm going to put 6 eggs to 1 gallon water. It's kind of a funny way to use eggs. I like this method because it's all organic and it's good for the soil around you and it won't do any harm to those plants that are around your tulips. But deer just do not like the smell and it turns them off. Okay, now that I have my 6 eggs, I'm going to pour in a little cayenne pepper. Give it a little kick. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm really going to immersion blend it so it gets really smooth, and hopefully I'll get all those thick chunky parts of the egg yolk out, and like the egg whites, not so much the yolk, so that when I put it in my sprayer right here, on the top right here, there's a little filter, and then I want that water to go through so it doesn't clog, and it will kind of go in more smoothly so it's not quite as thick. And then the reason I'm using this sprayer is just because it's so much easier. I know it's really big, it's a little overkill, but you can also use a little hand bottle sprayer or a hand sprayer of this sort, just the non-backpack kind, the one that you have to pump. And whatever you choose to use would be fine. I have a lot of tulips, so a little, water sprayer. What are those things called? I can't think of it. Those little just $3 ones aren't going to do the job. All right, so now I'm just going to blend this up, and then I'm going to take you outside and show you what my tulips look like, when you should start spraying them, and a few other things, a few other tips. All right, let's get blended. All right, I got my mixture here. It's nice and combined and super thin at this point. Let's go a little slower, get a little excited here. So at this point you just want to make sure it's nice and blended and there's not a lot of chunks that are going to get caught up in your filter if you choose to use this or your spray bottle. That's what it's called, a spray bottle. Okay, that was really simple, not too complicated. The only hard part is having to be diligent and keep spraying them every night. Oh, let's go outside and I'll show you what we're looking at here. Okay, so if you didn't see my earlier video on planting tulips, that was around November. I have them all planted around here in the front. You can't see them right now because I'm a little bit far away. They're just starting to sprout up. So there's quite a few in here. There's 200 that I got to spray, but with this sprayer, it's only going to take me maybe 5 minutes. I'm going to have to do that every single night. Deer really like to come out in the early mornings and late at night. So I'm just going to plan on spraying them every night. My mom used to do this. We're such fanatics. She would be out in her pajamas spraying her tulips, and I'm kind of following in her footsteps minus the pajamas. So let's take a look at the tulips. So you can see that they're not very tall. This is only about 1 inch above the ground. I'm gonna start spraying right now because I want my tulips to succeed and I'm not gonna let the deer eat them. I'm gonna take extreme measures here. If I have to spray them every single night for the next 60 days, I'm going to. My neighbor keeps telling me that there's no way I'm gonna be able to grow tulips because of the deer. So even more of a challenge for me to prove him wrong. They have never sprayed or taken these kind of measures. I'm sure they could grow them, but he doesn't quite realize that there's options out there if you're willing to put in the work. Anyway, so there's those ones. I have them all around. That one's a little bit taller, so through experience I've learned deer will start chomping them down at about 3 to 4 inches, whether they have a bloom or not. And then also right here you can see this little bulb. This is a daffodil. I'm sure you're familiar with that, but they're poisonous and deer do not like to eat them. And so I kind of planted them to get together, hoping that they would prevent the deer from eating tulips. Okay, there's also this bulb called Fritillaria. It blooms early in spring and it has this really musty smell that deer hate. And so it's a great option to plant with your tulips. It also has these little bell-shaped blooms that kind of fall downward. They're very fun, and some of them are speckled. They're also known as snakehead. So that's a good option to plant with your tulips. I just barely learned about it. I wish my neighbor, my expert gardener neighbor, had told me about it earlier. I'm gonna plan on planting those in the fall. I treat my tulips like annuals, and so I'll plant those together in the fall, and then hopefully that will also keep the deer out. I'm gonna take all measures possible because I love tulips and I think they're worth the effort, especially in an area where I have a lot of deer, and I like to prove people wrong. I want there to be options to grow things when people tell you you can't. So that's kind of my personality. It's always a challenge. I'm just gonna start pumping my backpack sprayer, get them sprayed, and then I just have one last thing I wanted to say at the end. Can't quite remember right now. I'll tell you when I remember. Okay, so I got them all sprayed. You're probably thinking like, there's no way you're gonna put that kind of effort into it. And if you're like that, I'm gonna experiment next year and not do any of the spray and just plant those fritillarias, the daffodil, and see what happens. I'm hoping I can get to the point and help you get to the point where you can have tulips with deer and not have to put so much effort into it. I'm gonna be going through a lot of eggs this next couple months. I'm gonna let that sit there, that wash sit in there for another week. It's gonna get real nice and stinky, and then I'll probably have to refill. I actually did use kind of a whole gallon, so I'm probably gonna put 2 gallons in there and then spray as it gets bigger and according to how the weather acts. But yeah, I hope this video was helpful for you guys. Comment down below if you guys love tulips as much as me and you're willing to kind of work hard. I think it's a good time of year to do it because the real gardening season hasn't hit for me. I have some time on my hands to spray tulips, and then by the time things get really busy, the tulips are kind of out of bloom. So it kind of works out. Anyways, like, subscribe, comment down below. Thanks for stopping by. Can't wait to see you in my next videos. I'll talk to you later and have a good day. Bye.
Puertorriqueña.